Senator Camilleri.
Here.
Senator Irwin.
Here.
Senator DeMoose.
Here.
Senator Johnson. Madam Chair, you have 5 members present. There is a quorum.
Okay, I'd like to note Senator Geis is here virtually. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from June 17th. So moved by Minority Vice Chair DeMoose. Without objection, the minutes are adopted. Make a motion to excuse absent members. Without objection, the motion carries. Today we'll start by discussing Senate Bill 492, brought to us by Senator Moss. Senator, can you please explain this bill for the committee? And you have 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Polhanke, the vice chairs, and members of this committee for considering this bill. This bill, 492, was developed in response to a horrific tragedy that played out in my district and was uncovered earlier this year. On February 14th, Oakland County Sheriff's deputies discovered 3 children, ages 15, 13, and 12, left abandoned in a Pontiac home. They were found living in squalor, in soiled clothes, sleeping on pizza boxes, and likely hadn't left the house in 4 or 5 years. There were numerous failures along the way that led up to this situation, from a mother who is now being charged with abuse by our Oakland County prosecutor, Karen McDonald, to a residence that should have never been occupied to begin with. One crack through which these children fell that we can solve here was identified by our Oakland County Sheriff, Mike Bouchard, establishing clear lines of communication during the process of students transferring between different schools. The mother of these children years ago told their former school that they would be enrolling in another school. The former school sent the permanent school records of the students to the school that the mother indicated that they would be attending, which then disenrolled the students. But the students were never enrolled in the new school, and thus no school or school district maintained responsibility for them showing up after that point. And that's the last time they were heard from, and that was about 5 years ago. Had the students been enrolled in the transfer school and then just not show up, law enforcement would have been dispatched to check on the welfare of those students. Under current law, it is possible, and it has happened, that a student could be disenrolled from a school before they have been enrolled in another school. As a result, we're here today with Senate Bill 492, which makes a simple but necessary change to the revised school code, closing this loophole and requiring that a school shall not provide a copy of the student's permanent record nor disenroll them unless it has received written confirmation from the receiving school that the students have been enrolled. This way, one school retains responsibility for the students and their welfare during the transfer process. These awful scenes out of Pontiac played out across the country, and we don't want any other child to fall through this crack and be lost in the system. I'm joined here virtually by our 2 key countywide officials in Oakland County and great partners to me on this process, Sheriff Bouchard, who uncovered this situation, and Prosecutor McDonald, who is prosecuting the charges. They'll both speak about the current process for handling truancy cases and how this legislation can prevent future tragedies.
I'd like to welcome now Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard virtually. Sheriff, you have 5 minutes. 10 minutes.
Thank you, Senator Moss. Thank you, Chair and committee members. I appreciate the job you do. It's a tough job. I chaired education at a time when I was a senator, and you have both the most important things oftentimes to parents. You have their children first and foremost, and you have a significant investment. So you are stewards of very important things, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. Senator Moss, thank you for introducing this legislation. We are very concerned about this situation and appreciate you addressing it. You know, I've seen many tragic situations throughout my career in law enforcement, but they're heartbreaking and tragic. But this one rises to the top on so many levels, to have children basically abandoned for years in a situation that was untenable. The conditions these children were found in were completely deplorable. Garbage piled feet high, mold, human waste, non-working toilets, no hygiene whatsoever. Our deputies actually had to help them walk out of the house because their toenails were so long they physically had a challenge walking, and they were left to fend for themselves. What makes it even more devastating, it could have been prevented when these children's mother withdrew them from the school or asked for the transcripts to be sent. There was no follow-up or safeguards in place to ensure they were actually enrolled elsewhere. They simply vanished from the system and didn't fall through a crack. They fell through a cavern and were lost for almost 2 years. So Senator Moss's bill 4922 is a common sense measure that would require a receiving school to confirm enrollment before they're unenrolled in their current school, and it would close this dangerous gap and very probably save lives or terrible situations like this going forward. So I thank the senator for his leadership on this issue. We owe it to the most vulnerable residents, our children, to protect them and do everything in our power to do so. And I strongly support Senate Bill 492 and urge you to pass this without delay, because we're headed into a new school year, to make sure that this kind of thing never happens again. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. Are there any questions for the sheriff? Okay, thank you. Next, we have Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald, joined by Assistant Prosecuting Attorney and School Liaison Jacqueline Sivers.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have actually Jacqueline here, so she's not on the Zoom. I'm here today, of course, as the prosecutor, but also a former teacher, as well as a former family court judge and juvenile prosecutor, where I presided over the neglect and abuse docket. And because of that background, I am keenly aware of how our system does and does not work for children or address the issues of truancy and unaccounted for children. The situation in Pontiac that involves 3 children effectively left on their own is, as the sheriff said, and he and I keep saying we've never seen anything like this before, and then another case comes up and we say the same thing. But it truly is a one-of-a-kind situation we've never seen in tragedy. It was shocking, and even for those of us who are experienced with neglect and truancy cases, appalling. And the truth is the vast majority of students are enrolled and attending school, with parents actively involved in their education. However, while the current system works for most children in most situations, it is, this case highlights the gaps here and how easy it is for some children to slip through the cracks. There are currently 170,000 public school students in Oakland County, and our truancy tracker in Oakland County shows about 2,000 students who have been identified as truant, meaning they have had more than 10 unexcused absences, and about 500 of those have been referred to us to write to the parents and warn them of the need to get their child to school consistently. Distinguishing, though, the difference between a truant child, which is a child that the school district knows and is aware of and tracks, versus the kids that we're talking about now. And I addressed this in an article, an op-ed in the Free Press in 2021 after I first took office. And this term of ghost children, where did they go? And this law is actually going to finally address that. And I firmly support it. The juvenile division in my office works with schools, parents, and as the last resort, law enforcement to resolve those cases. Each one's unique, and when we identify a child who isn't in school, we work toward a unique situation. Lots of times this child needs resources. But the kids are being tracked in that system, again, are not the ones we're talking about today, and we need to know where they are and know that someone's out looking for them. The short of a universal statewide system to track every student's progress, this legislation that is proposed here today is one measure that can fill an obvious gap. And the bill, I hope it is an important first step in an ongoing process to ensure educators and parents have the tools to ensure every child is receiving the education and care they deserve. We have lots of laws that allow us and to keep kids safe. We have DHS that after someone is concerned about child and abuse neglect, they file a 3200. But if we have no contact with these children in the school system or in any other way, then nobody can look out for them in the way that they need to be kept safe. The current case, the mother in that case was charged with 3 counts of first-degree child abuse, and she is awaiting a pretrial in the circuit court. And I commend the Senator Moss and the entire committee, and also the sheriff, for taking the time and giving this the attention that it deserves.
Thank you, Prosecutor McDonald. We have a question from Senator DeMuth.
Well, I mean, it's not even that questioning of the bill. The bill's a home run. That's a no-brainer. My question is probably on a lot of people's mind is just how are the 3 children doing?
Oh, thank you. They are actually thriving. And given the horrible circumstances, it's shocking. They all had access to phones during this period of time. Mom would drop off food. Again, these are all allegations. She is not convicted. And sometimes supplies, mostly not. But they're thriving in their placement, and they do not have long-term medical issues.
And I would add one thing, that the community rallied around them as well. They donated a tremendous amount of resources and money. We received over $100,000. And then we had a woman who was an attorney that practiced specifically in creating trusts, and we put 100% of the money into a trust she donated, creating, that is 100% for the benefit only of these children and their future needs, be it some kind of counseling or education or whatever it may be, in addition to the other kinds of resources that come to this tragedy.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. I'd just like to add, the vast majority of parents are not neglecting their kids physically, emotionally, educationally. But there are, I liked that term Prosecutor McDonald used, ghost children. We do not do a great job in Michigan of keeping track of our kids. This bill will certainly help. But until we can, for lack of a better term, count, and compare live births to school enrollment, whether it be, public school, private school, homeschool, until we are able to keep track of these kids, my concern is that we would hear more stories like this. So that's something I'm certainly going to be focusing on, along with tangentially chronic absenteeism. That's my big goal for the rest of my time, if I'm lucky enough to be in office. We've got to do better on chronic absenteeism as well. Okay, Mr. Clerk, are there cards for the record?
There are no cards on this bill, Madam Chair.
There are no cards on this bill. So that was testimony only today. Now we're moving